All right, peace and blessings, everybody. It's August the 21st, the year 2017, and one of the main allegations that you hear against Schaeffer Cox repeatedly is that he pled guilty to domestic abuse and he's a wife beater. Scrocky used this to the maximum in court, constantly referring to Schaeffer's pleading of guilty to domestic abuse. And the jury was looking at Schaeffer in the form or in the light of he had already been convicted or pled guilty to domestic abuse. Schaeffer's story has never changed on this issue. He's always told me the same story, and he does it really, really well here. This is the same day Schaeffer was arrested. This is at least 6 or 7 years old. Agent Richard Sutherland, who is another spawn of the devil, basically he's a Nazi following order Gestapo man who does anything his leaders tell him to do, and he will convict an innocent man if it furthers his own career. But you'll hear Richard Sutherland bring up the same issue in the interview with Schaeffer Cox. Didn't you plead guilty to that? And I want you guys to listen to Schaeffer Cox's response. You use your discernment whether you think it's true, and then I want to show you Marty Cox's photo as well as Marty Cox's retraction from that same day where she was supposedly abused by Schaeffer Cox.
It's not.
Am I mistaken in the fact that you took a plea in that case?
Yes, because they said, because we were told that if you fight this, they're going to take your kids away until it is resolved, and it could take 8 or 10 months to resolve it. That's mortifying. You're definitely not gonna fight it. You're just gonna bend over and take your licks, man. I'm not gonna. I mean, I care about my children more than anything. I'm not gonna say, well, a character assassination and keeping a good name, which is a good name is more precious than rubies, you know, like it says in Proverbs. It is. Yes. But children are more precious than a good name and rubies. And I don't want to have my 1.5-year-old precautionarily taken away from me and his mother for 10 months while this gets dragged out and sorted out. I mean, it was a nightmare for them. I mean, they know if that went to trial. And I even said at the arraignment, I went in front of Racely, Alsmary Racely, and she says, has anybody made any threats or coercions to get you to enter this plea? And I said, yes, the state. And she laughed. Ha ha ha, has anyone besides the state? And I said, no. And she says, well, I find your plea knowing and involuntary. Well, I mean, that's not due process. I mean, you lodge you're acting out of fear and because you know, just to preserve your family. I mean, you guys gotta see that, you know. And what do? You get you know, you've exhausted all of your forms of appeal. If that's the kind of thing that you guys are capable and equipped and tasked with looking into, well, then I want to supply you the springboard to look into that. Now, if there was does that make sense?
And again, to the extent that we may not agree to the facts, but I'm not inclined to debate that at this time and place. Okay. What I will empathize with you is if you truly felt that you were in a position where you must comply with the law or risk losing your children, then I would certainly expect you to act in a way to preserve your family and your children. So while we may not agree on the facts, I can empathize with you from that perspective. But I don't want to debate that situation. I mean, it's not like you walked into my office the week after that happened and made a complaint and I told you to get lost. You never brought that to my attention, so I've never had the opportunity to look into that to see if there was anything to it.
Well, that's because I thought the proper place to bring that to the attention of was making motions to the judge, and those just got shot down.
Okay. Agent Richard Sutherland is an absolute evil reprobate on a fast train to hell. He brings up this, didn't you plead guilty to the wife beater, you know, domestic abuse charge? And then he goes into this, Well, I don't really, you heard his comments, right? You know, he said, I don't think we agree on the facts. Let's look at the facts. Okay, you guys see this? This is a photo of Marty Cox. Do you guys see a bloody nose, a bloody mouth? Do you see bruises on her neck? This is the photo that was taken when the cops came out. Not only that, but we've recently found and confirmed that it is authentic, a retraction. And let me read it for you. This is a retraction from Marty Cox. On or about February 26, 2010, I spoke with Trooper Bressler talking about a matter between me and my husband, which my mother pressured me to do. I didn't feel comfortable with it or consider it necessary. I went to a hotel with mother to call the AST, I guess that stands for Alaska State Troopers, and spoke with Trooper Bressler to ask questions about the matter at hand between me and my husband. He asked me several questions that were leading to things that never occurred, such as A, my husband assaulting me every 3 months, the officer pressuring and commanding me that I get a restraining order against my husband, which I would never do considering my husband poses no threat to anyone, much less me and our son. C, the matter has been blown completely out of proportion, and I never wanted any charges filed against my husband in any form concerning this matter, and I believe that the court is using the report as a malicious intent to destroy my family, and I want to retract my original testimony due to the malicious intent used by the government officials. Every time I've brought this issue up with Schaeffer, his issue has been the same. I mean, his story has been the same. He was pressured into pleading guilty because they were threatening to take his son. You just heard him say it to Richard Sutherland the day he was arrested. He's never changed his story. It's always been consistent. And yet, when they had the trial, Scrocky brought this up to the jury over and over and over again. Think about just that one issue and how it colored the jury about the character of Schaeffer Cox. And then you have Scrocky calling him not reliable, and that his testimony was full of falsehoods. I would suggest that Schaeffer's testimony was not full of falsehoods, and that he didn't domestically abuse his wife, and that it was blown way out of proportion, just like Marty Cox said, and that everybody can understand having a mother-in-law that kind of takes things that way out of hand, and it can just be like a domino effect. The next time someone tells you that Schaeffer Cox abused his wife and pled guilty to it, show him this video and show them this photo. Peace and blessings. Take care.